Guys, it's Sarah, and today we're going to talk about the books I read in February. February was an interesting month. It wasn't strong as far as quantity, and the quality was, from what I finished, the quality was great, but I also had 3 DNFs this month. So I'll talk about those at the end, but I did three of them. I did not have time for it this month. I was done. Which is good. Life is too short to read books you're not enjoying, right? Especially when I have so many. So the first book that I finished in the month of February is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is one that I used for my TBR jar pick for a subscriber recommendation because this is recommended to me constantly still. I have now read it. And this was also sent to me from Lindsay from our Christmas book exchange. So, yay, very happy about that. Now this one is very, very popular. This is definitely a 5-star prediction as well, as in everyone else has read it than me. So I'm not going to give you my final star rating on it because of that. I'm going to save that for my 5-star prediction wrap up, but this was on that list as well. So I was checking all sorts of boxes by reading this one book. It starts out in the late 1960s in a marshy area of North Carolina, and you follow a young girl who is living with her family, and you basically follow her life. And she grows up under the stigma of being called the Marsh Girl by people in the local town. And they don't like her or her family. They think she is basically trash and she's dirty because she doesn't live amongst them. She doesn't follow the same rules that they follow. They consider her outcasted, weird. They kind of write her off basically her entire life. So you follow her, you follow what happens with her family, and you see her grow up in these marsh areas. And then in the future, there's 2 different timelines that we're following here. And in the future, there is a local man from the town who is very popular. He is killed or ends up dead. So they're trying to figure out if he was killed or if it was an accident. And she basically gets blamed for this man's death. And they're trying to see if they can convict her or prove that she is the one who actually did it. So you follow that as well. And then you see the 2 timelines merge. I can't give you my full rating, but I will say I'm very happy that I finally have read this, and I loved it. This book was incredibly atmospheric, and it had a very fantastic ending. I love the way the ending went. There are definite content warnings in here, so there is some warnings for domestic abuse, also child abuse and child abandonment, definitely. There is also a sexual assault scene in here as well. So something to keep in mind if you have not read this book yet, but big thumbs up for me. This one that I completed is also one from my 5-star predictions list, so I'm not going to give you my full rating. I will give you some here soon, I promise. But that is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a nonfiction memoir about Tara's experience growing up in very different circumstances. And this is one that I listened to on audiobook. The narrator was Julia Whalen, who is one of my favorite audiobook narrators. She's fantastic. So I really enjoyed listening to this one. And Tara grew up with a family situation where they lived kind of in the Appalachian area, mountainous areas. Her family was very religious. They were part of the Mormon religion. And they took that to an extreme, to the point where she never got a formal education. She never went to a hospital and got medical care correctly. They firmly believed that her mother could heal anything with essential oils. Basically, they built this big oil business that kind of helped keep them going because people around them were believing that all of these oils were healing cancer. I'm not kidding. All these things. Tara also underwent a lot of abuse from both her brother and some from her father, but her father was more mental than physical. Her brother was physical all the way. And you see Tara really strive to try to escape this type of life. You see her doubt everything around her while still wanting to be loyal to her mother more than anything. And Tara ends up eventually getting somewhat of an education, and then she goes on to attend Harvard and Cambridge, and she gets like this world-class education from there because she's very smart. And one of the things that really hit me in here that made me gasp out loud is when Tara was in college, very beginning of college, one of her first classes, she was sitting there and the teacher asked her to answer a question, I think, or something read from a book. And she said she came across this word and she didn't know what the word was or what it meant. And the word was Holocaust. She didn't know what the Holocaust was. And, everyone kind of really looked at her like thinking she was joking and saying, that's not funny. And she's like, I'm not kidding. I don't know what this is. And that just really made me go, oh my gosh, this poor woman. Like, I can't even imagine that, like being in that type of situation and just the shock of that. And then learning what it actually was crazy. So overall, I did really like this book a lot. I'm not going to give you my star rating, like I said, because that's going to be for my 5-star prediction, but I'm very happy I read it. I'm happy I listened to it. I highly recommend the audiobook, and definite content warnings in here for, child abuse. And there's a lot of also kind of male chauvinistic things going on in here because they firmly believe that it's the man's job to work and the woman's job is in the kitchen. And definitely that happens in here as well. So something to, if that's something you're not okay with, then that's something that is definitely, in here. But yeah, so that's all I'm going to say. The next one I finished is Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is by Zora Neale Hurston, and this is one that I picked out of my TBR jar for the Great American Read list, and I listened to this one on audio as well. The audiobook narrator for this one is Ruby Dee, who is an actress. She has actually passed away, but she was an actress. And it was fantastic. I will say, if I had been reading this book with my eyes and having especially a lot of the dialogue, the way that it's written in my head, it would not have done this book justice at all. So I'm really, really happy that I listened to it because Ruby Dee was phenomenal as an audiobook narrator. The way that she read the dialogue in here was just perfection. And this one follows a woman named Janie. We're in the 1930s and we are in Florida. So Janie is married to a man, and he is not a very good man. He doesn't treat her very well. He has a lot of expectations of her that she does not have of herself, and she's pretty much just in a loveless marriage, and she wants more for herself that way. And I believe it becomes physically abusive as well. So definite content warnings for domestic abuse in this one. And then she randomly meets a man who is walking down her road while she's outside doing her chores, and they strike up a conversation. They have kind of a whirlwind romance, if you will, very quick. Janie decides to leave her husband and to go off with this man and become his wife. He is very ambitious. He is wanting to go and find a town that he can kind of build up from the studs, if you will. And he wants to have that notoriety of making a difference and making a change and, all that stuff, which he does. So she becomes basically the mayor's wife of this new town. And things are okay up to a certain point. Towards the end of their marriage, she really still is feeling like she's being held down. She has a lot of desires. She has a lot of ambition, and no one's really letting her do that because they believe that she's a woman. She needs to sit down and be quiet. She doesn't belong in these types of circles. She doesn't belong here. She doesn't, she's a woman. She doesn't have the right to be doing any of these things. And so her next marriage is very different. She meets a man who really treats her with respect and who lets her be herself and all that stuff. And then you kind of follow that marriage to the end as well. And then the ending was fantastic. I thought it was great. I won't spoil what happens, but you basically follow Janie through her 3 marriages and how those end and what ends up happening. And again, the dialogue in here was fantastically done as an audiobook, and I thought it was funny. I laughed out loud quite a bit. Just some of the dialogue from, the people who were living in this town that she and her husband went and kind of helped build up. Her husband became the mayor, so she was the mayor's wife. And just some of the interactions that she had with the men in this town were actually kind of funny. And I laughed out loud quite a bit. But it was also heartbreaking at the same time because Janie really struggled through all 3 of her marriages. There were some things that, no matter how happy she seemed at one point, something else happened to kind of, it was one of those like 2 steps forward, 1 step back type thing. So your heart kind of broke for her because you just want her to be happy and you want her to be in a loving marriage, like in all ways possible. And it didn't seem like she could get there. So yeah, but very happy I read this book, and I gave this one 4 stars. And then I picked up a book on a whim. I said to myself, I was starting to get into a little bit of a slump. I had DNF'd a couple of books, and I said, you know what? I just want to pick up something I'm very, very excited for, something I really feel like I'm going to love, something I can really sink my teeth into. And I picked up Malice by John Gwynne. Okay, this is a high fantasy book. It's the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. And I loved every page of this. It was fantastic. It was exactly what I was looking for. I just wanted to get into a really big, thick, meaty fantasy, and that's exactly what this was. This one is following a lot of people. So it's kind of Games of Thronesy like that, where you're getting, each chapter is a different perspective, and you're getting different people from different areas of this country and of this world. And you're seeing how they're all going to come together. And this is basically setting everything up where that this is going to be like a big good versus evil type thing. There's a big prophecy where there's going to be 2 chosen ones. One's going to be good, one's going to be evil, and there's going to be a big war. There's going to be a big battle. Everyone is expecting this, and you are following all these different characters who are basically gearing up to get ready for this. All the while, there are kingdoms that are battling each other as well because they're broody men and they can't let their pride go. So you see a lot of war and battle, and battle scenes in here are really big. This is very brutal. It's very bloody. It is graphic in its descriptions of the battle scenes and things like that. So keep that in mind as well. And you don't fully really know who is going to be the good and the evil one, but I'm getting an inkling. I have some theories, and I'm pretty positive I know which way things are going to be going and who the chosen ones are. We have one character who believes he's chosen for the good, but I think he's going to be the bad guy. And then we have one person who doesn't believe he's chosen at all, but some inklings are happening and some things are being discussed behind the scenes that you don't fully know yet, that I think he's going to be the good guy. So it's all very interesting the way it's set up. There is also an animal companion in this novel that I'm living for. It's between him and one of the characters, or her and one of the characters. The animal is a girl. And I cannot get enough of it. Her name is Storm. She's fantastic. And the bond that they have is just everything. And it almost made me cry. There were some scenes that were heartbreaking that involved her, and I almost cried. Like, I had tears in my eyes. I had to put the book down for a second. And I was like, no, you didn't. Just one of those things. I talked out loud in this book a few times. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was happy. I was mad. Like, I think I might have cursed at the author a couple of times. It gave me a lot of feelings. I had a lot of emotions with this one. And I am very excited to move on to the next book as well. There's 4 books in this series. I'm definitely going to be purchasing and reading all of them. I've actually already purchased the second one, so I do want to read that here very soon. But yeah, this was exactly what I needed, and it kept me from getting into a slump. So definite 5 stars from me all over the place. Then I cheated a little bit, and I was supposed to add this to my March TBR, but I read it the last day of February. So I went ahead and read Saga Volume 1. And I got to the end of the month and realized I've only read 4 books. I've only completed 4 books, and I wanted to have one more, and this was the easiest one I was going to be able to finish of all the ones that I had started. So I went ahead and read it the last day of February. So it will not be in my March wrap up, but it's here now. And I really enjoyed this, you guys. This is the one that I picked for the book list from last week, where we did a try a chapter, and I picked this one to add to my March TBR in order to actually read it. It's a library book, and it's a graphic novel. It is very adult. Very adult, so do not hand this to your children. And it's a science fiction that follows Marco and Alana, who are the 2 people on the cover here, and they are different species, and they are on the run from everybody because they are in love. They have created a child together. This is a big no-no, and they are basically being hunted, and they are hunted by the government. They are hunted by bounty hunters that have been hired in order to find them. They have been, everyone who's hunting them has been ordered to kill these 2, but bring the child back unharmed. So there's going to be something special about this child is what I'm thinking, and why they want her unharmed. But they're on the run trying to save their lives. And you see them go to different planets and meet different people who want to help them. You see them encounter these bounty hunters, and they're trying really hard not to get into a wartime situation where they're actually like killing other people. They're trying not to do that, but that's a little hard because they're being hunted in order to be killed. So you see them struggle with that a lot. And yeah, I really liked this. I laughed out loud a couple times, which is kind of funny. And it was very, very entertaining. So I will definitely read this whole series for sure. I'm going to get them from the library. I'm not going to purchase them. Just because graphic novels are not my preferred medium to read from, even though I really did enjoy this one. But I will definitely pick up volume 2 here soon. But yeah, so very, very adult. So lots of violence. There is some sexual content in here as well. And since it's a graphic novel, it is shown. So just something to keep in mind with that. But it's funny, it's weird, and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, let's talk about my DNFs. All right. The End of Alice by A.M. Holmes. I picked this one out of the TBR jar for a random number generator. I DNF'd this book at 20 pages. 20 pages into this book because I could not stomach the content in here. I knew going into this book that this was going to be focusing on communication between a pedophile who is serving time in prison and a young woman. There's communication happening here. So I knew that going into here, which I was like, oh, it's going to be controversial and blah, blah, blah. Maybe it'll be interesting. Okay. So what I didn't realize is that they are communicating because the woman is also a pedophile. Here's what I could not. I could not. I could not stomach the content, you guys, because you're in her head. You are seeing her in the first 20 pages. You're seeing her stalk a young boy who is the same age as my daughter. And the thoughts that she has about children in general in her head were so disgusting. I could not stomach it. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. I put the book down at one point. I was like, I just need a minute. I just need a minute because I can't unread what I just read, the way she's describing children. And I thought, okay, let me just push through the first chapter and see. And I picked it back up and I got 2 more pages in and I said, I can't do this. And I put it down. I can't do it. No. And I've read books that have pedophiles in them, and but it was never in their head. I can't do that. I can't do it. I don't want to know what kind of research went into this. I don't want to know, like, are you okay, author? I don't know if this is a man or woman. I think it's a woman. who wrote this, but like, are you okay? You know, did that completely scar you? I can't do this one. I can't do it. Nope. Nope. So DNF, unhauling, I can't. Okay, my next DNF was a 5-star prediction. And this might shock some of you guys. It shocked me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this was on my 5-star prediction list and I DNF'd it. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I got 328 pages into this book, guys. I read this much and I DNF'd it because I could not go on. Okay. I did listen to this on audio. This was narrated by Zach Appelman. The narration was fine. So it wasn't like bad narration and that kind of hindered it. It was the content. And it was interesting to me because I think it's beautifully written. I think he definitely has, you know, he's a good writer. He describes things very well. I did not care about these characters one bit. I didn't care. I don't care how their stories collide. I don't care what happens to them. And we are following a young blind girl in France during World War II and a young German soldier during World War II. And eventually their stories are going to collide and I don't care. I don't care. And that's why I decided DNF, because I said to myself, do I care what's going to happen with these characters? Nope. So I put it down. I was so bored, you guys. Like, nothing was 300 pages in and nothing interesting happened. Nothing. And I was shocked because I really thought this was going to be a 5-star prediction and then I DNF'd it. So I guess spoiler alert for that. But I mean, I had to talk about it because that's what I did. So yeah, I did not care one iota about these characters or about what was happening. I was so bored the entire time that I was reading this. And I spent some time reading it because I got 328 pages in. And I said, I'm good. So yeah. Oh well. The last one that I DNF'd was a book that was on my Kindle, and it was Mask of Shadows by Lindsay Miller. This is the first book, I think, in a duology, I want to say. It's a young adult fantasy. It was from NetGalley, so I did DNF a NetGalley book. And this one, I DNF'd at 30% because I, again, was really just not enjoying it. I wasn't enjoying it at all. And I like the premise of the book, though, and that's what really kind of irked me because I love the premise. It is following a person who is trying to win a spot as one of the queen's assassins, basically, I guess you could say. She has like a team of people, and I think they're all assassins, but they're named after gemstones. So they're looking for an opal because the opal just passed away. And so they need a new opal. And that's what they're trying to do. And they handpick people to compete for this spot. Now, the whole competition is to not only learn how to do this, but you have to kill off your competition and not get caught. That's how you prove yourself. Here's the thing. Okay. That to me sounds really interesting because I love trials. I love competitions. And then they have to kill each other without getting caught. Like, that's amazing. I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care about the characters because I didn't understand them. We didn't get any backstory on our main character at all. We got nothing about this person. I'm saying this person because they're gender fluid, because I wanted to have that background knowledge. I wanted to actually know this character, and we didn't get that at all. So how am I supposed to care whether or not they win this competition if I don't even know who they are? It's just like, okay. And then the trials, they're learning these things, which, okay, you're learning, but you're there for a reason because you're supposed to be one of the best people out there, but you can't even handle some of these training that you're going through. You're getting beat up constantly, and like your muscles are so tired. You're supposed to be strong, but your muscles are so tired. Like, that threw me off too. Like, how are you supposed to be the best of the best, but you can barely handle a training exercise like 10 minutes into the routine. You know what I mean? So that bothered me too. It just didn't match up correctly. And the action was mildly interesting, but it wasn't thrilling. I wasn't like ever excited when I was reading it at all. Like nothing excited me. Nothing was like, ooh, I didn't feel any emotion at all. So I just said, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I'm good on this one. And yeah, I don't think it was executed well. So I DNF'd it at 30%. So it was an interesting reading month. Even though I had 3 DNFs of everything that I did finish, they were all 4 or 5 star books. So that's good. What I did finish, I really enjoyed. So I guess we'll call that a win, even though I DNF'd 3 books. But yeah, so it was a very interesting month. And I almost got into a slump because I had DNF'd 2 books in a row. And then I said, I need to pick up something really that I'm excited about and that, you know, is just yes. And I picked up Malice, and that's exactly what I needed. So, okay, let me know how your February went. Let me know what you read. Did you DNF anything? I know quite a few people who were DNFing this month because people are just like, I don't have time for this anymore. So let me know if you DNF'd anything. Let me know if you completed everything that you started, what your thoughts were, all the good things I want to know down below. Please let me know. And I will see you guys again very soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.